S. Okay. And then Carlos Morales. Okay.
I'm afraid I won't be called on, and I really think we have to take up this impeachment question. I totally oppose it. I read the entire transcript of this conversation that Trump had with Zelensky. There was no quid pro quo, but Joe Biden did do that and bragged about withholding $1 billion from Ukraine if they didn't fire the prosecutor in this case. There seems to be a gap. I concur with the president that there is a coup ongoing, and it's directed, and it comes from London. The British House of Lords said that the special relationship between the U.S. and Britain would not survive a second term of Trump. Pelosi didn't support impeachment until she met with Mark Carney, the head of the Bank of England, and I don't know what he threatened her with. So I think I'll stop when my 2 minutes are up. But this is a serious matter.
No, it's okay. We can defuse. So we'll defuse. One thing that I just want to say is, like, I just want to make sure that we respect process, because very often when we disrespect process, the people who are disrespected by that process are the people who are always marginalized. And so I just want to name that. I don't want to silence your concern. I am not here to say we're only going to listen to people we agree with. So I want to name that. I'm going to take this question and I'm going to come back and I'm going to respond to what you have to say, okay?
Always a lady, Alex.
Thank you. Please.
First of all, I want to thank you so much, and I know I only have 2 minutes to ask my question, but just real quick, I don't know if you remember this, but when you were in the gay parade in Jackson Heights, I told you that you were going to be on Stephen Colbert, and you laughed at me. So I just want to point that out to you.
I did.
Nobody knew who you were, and I'm so glad that happened. Now, a more lighthearted question among, like, impeachment and all that stuff, but I do want to ask because I do work retail, I do work at Best Buy, and I'm very passionate about technology. And I think that if the Green New Deal is very important to you, then I think that innovation in technology should be too. Mm-hmm. So I just wanted to ask, since net neutrality is something that's very important to me, and back before you were our representative, Ajit Pai was trying to dismantle it, and Trump was for it. And one of the only companies, well, the only two companies which are actually trying to merge right now, stood against that, and it was T-Mobile and Sprint, and they said that they were going to guarantee net neutrality, and I think that is very important that there isn't a monopoly on our free speech, because that's what our, what it's evolved to, what our society has evolved to. So I wanted to ask, why is Rashida Tlaib, why are you, and why is the squad against the merger, even though they're one of the biggest innovators in net neutrality? And I also want to point out that I have one more question after this one as well.
Sure, of course. So thank you for asking this question. This is a really good question. I commend any company that stands up for net neutrality. So in the T-Mobile Sprint merger, T-Mobile did the right thing by opposing, or not opposing net neutrality, by being for net neutrality. Sprint did the right thing in doing that. So this is not about opposing the merger or even approving a merger as rewarding good behavior per se. So let me tell you why. This merger is an antitrust problem. And when we hear kind of in 2008, like too big to fail, we need to have, so telecommunications is an area where there's something known as natural monopolies. And what happens is, like, remember back in the day, like in the 90s, you had like Bell and like all these companies and stuff. And sometimes these companies, now I'm like throwing back, people are like, oh, Bell, okay. This is an area where there's always kind of this push and pull with antitrust, because it will naturally move towards larger and larger networks. And one of the big problems that we have in our society is the concentration of wealth and the concentration of power among corporations. So I would prefer, so for example, in the case of net neutrality, you allow both of these folks to merge. Now, all of a sudden, you only have one company that is supporting net neutrality, whereas net neutrality can be one area of competition between members of this area. So I oppose the merger on antitrust grounds. I am concerned about corporations merging too much. You know, we see this with like Viacom, Comcast, like all of these things. And so it's funny because a lot of people are like, they'll say, oh my God, she's a democratic socialist. We believe in the free market, blah, blah, blah. Meanwhile, they want corporations to become our government and like consolidate in huge, massive entities. So I oppose the merger based on antitrust grounds because we need to have separate actors in this market. But you bring up excellent points, and I do want to reiterate a commitment to net neutrality. And even with you know, in our measurement of the poverty line, we talk about internet as a new necessity. And there has been a lot of damage that Ajit Pai has done because he was a former Verizon lobbyist. So they're putting like wolves in charge of the hen house in every part of government, and he's the wolf in charge of, you know, our telecommunications hen house. But you know, we disagree with it on grounds of antitrust and on corporate power, but it's not because we disagree with net neutrality.
Okay, thank you so much.
Of course.
I do also have one more question, and it's on a little bit of a more serious note. So I am a Palestinian American, and I'm very proud of that, and I will never apologize for that, and it has been very hard for me to not apologize for that for the past couple of years. So this very important question is, doesn't have to do with Palestine directly, but not directly, but I do see on Twitter and on the news a lot of things going on with Uyghur Muslims in China. I do not know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but I do feel like, you know, if we are going to so blatantly say that, you know, we stand by the Jewish community and we're never going to let the Holocaust happen, or we stand with, you know, the Japanese community and or the Asian community and we're never going to let internment camps happen in World War II, why are we not doing the same thing for Muslims? And why is it that I always see like Al Jazeera or like Muslim news sources bringing this up when this is obviously a global issue? Because if one religion is attacked right now, that means that everybody is going to be attacked in the future.
Absolutely. No, thank you for bringing visibility to that. You're 100% right. I believe, Ariel, we've authored letters on Uyghur. Have we joined? So we've joined letters talking about this issue of Uyghur Muslims, but what you're talking about is exactly correct in that we need to amplify visibility around this issue. We've been doing work, we've been joining letters, filing congressional inquiries on this, but it's a huge issue. And detention, it's no secret how I feel about it. Detention.
I literally saw today while I was on the train that their organs are being taken out and sold on the black market.
Yeah,
and that's disgusting.
Yes, no, and the reports that are coming out of these camps are shocking. So I think you're absolutely right. This is an issue that we need to draw a lot more attention to, because it is truly horrifying. It is truly horrifying. And so we're doing the work on the congressional side, but I think a big part of that push, you're right, is a commitment to amplifying that. And I'm happy to join you and figure out how we can put more shine on this issue so that more people pay attention.
Thank you so much.
No,
I really appreciate that.
Oh, and I did say I was going to address right over here, right after that question. What I would say, and what I would encourage people to do, is to, you know, you and I clearly have different takes on this issue. So I'm going to name that. I'm not going to try to tell you you're wrong or anything like that. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to invite everyone to actually read the transcript and come to your conclusion. To me, when someone says, I need you to do me a favor though, and then that favor is to investigate a political opponent, and then you connect that person to your personal attorney and the domestic attorney general, we're not talking about a foreign secretary, that to me is a crime. And again, we may disagree, and that's totally fine, but that's why I invite our constituents, read it yourself. Come to your own conclusion. But I've heard from our community.
A bunch of Nazis in power in Ukraine. The United States under Obama ran a coup in Ukraine where people waving swastikas.
Again, and I'd say I'd invite everyone to do the research.
And that's a crime that should be investigated.
And I'd say I'd invite everyone to to, and again, I'd invite everyone to look into it, et cetera. We can all come to our conclusions. As the Congresswoman for this district, I have heard loud and clear from the majority of our constituents where we stand on this issue, and my job is to follow that in good and full faith.
Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, thank you for